Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to our material reconsideration of Me and Earl the Dying Girl book. We had some folks that wanted to make comment on, particularly to that book.
Are we gonna set time on this, or how are we gonna do that?
I would say probably the 3 minutes, other than maybe the person that did reconsideration form. If they've got some additional time needed or something, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead.
You want me to go first? Okay. Just make sure. The book Me, Earl the Dying Girl has 31 statements and 341 words that our society deems inappropriate for the average conversation of a minor. The Idaho statute defines a minor as anyone under 18. Community standards are used in a legal argument in court. According to Idaho Commission for Libraries, our collection is supposed to be a reflection of the community's interest, which is also known as community standards. While the First Amendment protects our freedom of speech, the Supreme Court has already ruled that there is a need to protect our children. The Supreme Court has already ruled 3 categories that are not protected. The first one is obscenity, the second one is harmful to minors, and the third one is child pornography. In other words, what is considered obscene to a minor may not be considered obscene to an adult. The Supreme Court and the Boundary County Library uses the Miller test. So we're going to go through the 3 Miller tests. Number 1, and I would encourage you guys while you're doing your discussion, I'm going to give you this so you can go over it, because I'm sure you'll have a hard time remembering everything. So number 1, does the average person apply community standards, find the work taken as a whole to the pertinent interests? Me, Earl the Dying Girl has 308 pages. The book consists of 341 inappropriate words and 31 inappropriate statements or sections. The first inappropriate statement starts on page 32, and the last one ends on page 273 in a book of 308. So, as a book, this would, in my opinion, would be considered that is throughout the whole book. So, there you go, it's considered as a whole. The second one, number 2, does the work depict or describe in patently offensive ways sexual conduct specifically designed in an applicable state law? So let's talk about the law. Idaho Statute 18-15-14. We're going to discuss definitions here. Minor is a person under 18. The young adult section is for under 18. Sexual conduct means any act of masturbation, homosexuality, sexual intercourse, physical contact with a person, genitals, either clothed or unclothed, pubic areas, buttocks, and any such person, the breast. The second definition, harmful to minors. The quality of any material or any description, so we're talking words, or representation in whatever form of nudity, sexual content, sexual excitement as a whole, and as a dominant effect of subsequently arousing sexual desires in a person under 18. The third one, does the work taken as a whole lack serious artistic, political, or scientific values? The words and statements in Me, Earl the Dying Girl, per community standards, are demeaning and degrading of a woman. And most women do not like to be talked like this, and meaning what's written in the book. So when we have this down in the minor section, you're not only desensitizing children to such language, you're sexualizing them. Because the boys are gonna sit there and say, ooh, this is how a girl wants to be talked to. And a girl's gonna think this is acceptable. I'm supposed to be called a slut. Or, my vagina is supposed to be called a pussy. Women don't like that. Guarantee if we do a survey of this room, every woman will raise their hand and say, I don't like being called those words. Here, so what's in this book? Does it pass the Miller's test for the minors under the age of 18? So here's the excerpts, and these are the ones that I've picked. Boner in full retreat, phone sex, 8-inch thick titanium diaper bolted to your pelvis, and still somehow you get laid. It should be the official tourism slogan, Israel, where the virginity goes to die. Are you going to eat her pussy? I'm going to eat her pussy. Do you even know how to eat pussy? Son, one day I'm going to teach you how to eat pussy. No, but he did teach me how to eat a butthole. God bless that man. Teach you some pussy eating techniques. I got like 20 pussies over here that I need to eat. I'm on a pussy deadline. 20 vaginas all lined up in a row. No one's talking about vaginas, Greg. What the hell are you talking? What the hell is wrong with you, man? That's nasty. I'm talking about pussy. I got a little honey mustard over here and a little Heinz 57 and a whole lot of pussy. My God, what if she wanted to have sex? Would I even be able to get a boner? I'm pretty sure it would be impossible for me to get a boner in those circumstances. Sexy pillow. We just had this one pillow in the house. They had to burn it because that thing got me so roused that was the sexiest pillow. I just wanted to make love to it all night. I used to call the pillow the dirtiest names. I used to say, you slutty pillow, you're such a dirty slut. Stop toying with my emotions. Then one day I came home to school and caught the pillow having oral sex with the table. Masturbate all over the pillows. Pickle relish for that pussy. Combination of food and sex like oral sex. Combining food and oral sex. Fuck shit. Lick my asshole. Or ass cheek, excuse me. Stick my face all up in my butthole. Fine ass girl is making me hard. Well, I'm almost done. And if you're, do we just want to go ahead and vote and say no? Because if you want to cut me off, then we need to vote right now no. So let me finish my own stuff. Please don't interrupt me, as you always say.
You let her read that book. It's on you. I know it's on you.
It is. Amen. And Lord, please forgive me. I forgot to say it.
Yeah.
Finance girl is making me hard right now. Not a mistake. That dude over there is one that's making me hard. Get a hard on from all kinds of freaky shit, like titties. Get a hard on from looking at a dude's funky dick. Get a hard on dog taking a dump, hard on. Wendy's cheeseburger, hard on. Computer virus that destroys all your shit, hard on. Big ass hard on for all that shit. Big ass titties. I'm a trisexual. Trisexual. Jock's starting to ask me if I'm going to make a gay porn. So we're going to talk about how many words are in this book. Ass, 57, bitch, 8, cock, 2, dick, 22, fag, faggot, 3, fuck, 94, goddamn 17, nigga, 3. By the way, they claim that we're racist. I have a problem with nigger. I don't even allow my children to say nigger in my house. Piss, 27, pussy, 13, shit, 88, and tit, 7. I don't even understand this. This is not appropriate for children. And to tell me, Lee, that I have to hover over my 2 children while they're looking at books. Mom, can I pick that book? Hold on, son. Flipping through 300 pages? It's impossible for anyone with multiple children, let alone one child. So stop playing that game. You have booklooks.org. It will tell your librarians what's appropriate and what's not. So please, if you can, here's the header one. And here's where I start talking about my 3 arguments. I'd appreciate it if you guys would argue them.
Anyone else who wants to?
We do.
Okay, go ahead.
So these folks are gonna get the 3-minute timer?
Yes.
Okay. So Linda Firamonte. Hang on 1 second. All right. You're good.
And thank you for allowing us to comment. I'm not as brave as Adrian to speak the kind of words that are in this book because they're just completely offensive to my being. But me and Earl and the Dying Girl is pornographic. And I would never, ever have any child read such smut. If you guys approve this book, I can't help but feel that you're part of the grooming and the child trafficking. So if you pass this book and say it's okay, that's where I put your category, is being part of the problem of child trafficking. So I encourage you to protect our children, all of them, and not agree to this horrible work.
Rylan Lewis.
Hi, I'm Rylan Lewis. this, I'd just like to point out that I'm actually 15 years old, and I'm coming here to talk about this book. So as a child, you look and you see, and this is a bright covered book, right? Children, when they walk into the library, they see this book on display, they go, they open it up to a random page. This book has a content warning. This is in our young adult section, made for 12-year-olds to 18-year-olds. This says, you are about to access material that contains content of an adult nature. These files may include pictures and materials that some viewers may find offensive. If you are under the age of 18, or if such material offends you, or if it is illegal for you to view these materials, please exit now. Why is this book right next to our children's section in the lounging area? As a 15-year-old, I don't even want to be reading this. I know almost all of you have children in this room. So does our panel. We are doing things like book competitions. I was an avid reader. I loved reading. I was in the young adult section at a very young age, but I needed a librarian there to come and be like, oh, I don't know if this book is appropriate. Like, as a parent, like, I'm not a parent, but if I'm taking a kid if I'm babysitting a child and I take them to the library for fun, it should be a fun experience, not something that I have to watch over a child of, to be like, oh my gosh, you can't read this. Or if we do story time, oh my gosh, you can't read this. It's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely inappropriate. I was going through this. I was looking at all the things that were said. I don't want to read that. As a 15-year-old, this is absolutely nasty and disgusting. And it hurts my heart. I sat in my seat and I cried when all these words were being read. I cried. Because why is that appropriate? Why is it appropriate for our children to be reading that? Why is it appropriate for my ears to be hearing that? It takes our childhood innocence away, and that should not. It's childhood innocence.
Do anyone else on the list there, Lee?
No, I'm sorry, no.
Anybody else would like to speak concerning the book?
Can I get your name, sir?
Go ahead, what's your name?
John Souza.
Okay, go ahead, John.
There's been some talk, beginning of this this meeting, about movies and the ratings in movies. My wife and I are movie nuts. We have between 1,500 and 1,600 DVDs. Close to half of them are rated. We can have it. I've been around every word you can think of in my life. If you take all those R-rated movies, you put them together, they are not as profane as what I just heard this lady say. I feel embarrassed to even be here to hear it.
Yeah.
It is not like the movie ratings. It's worse.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Your name, please?
My name is Beth Ashworth. I am a taxpayer in the county. I read the book in its entirety. I'm going to give you backstory. My son was his senior in high school when we found out his dad had terminal cancer, pancreatic cancer. We had a timeline of 160 days. His teachers were notified. His classmates knew. I read Earl and the Dying Girl. I do realize there's words and verbiage in there that's uncomfortable and not appropriate. We don't want to hear kids say it. But when you read the book, what made me cry was at the end of the book, he and his friends made these films, weren't meant to be seen by anybody but themselves. They were goofy films. They made this child dying of cancer laugh in her last days. Excuse me. She decided to go on hospice. she and her mother made the decision to stop treatment and go home on hospice. And they were asked by their classmates, could you make one last film for Rachel in these last moments? And this put a lot of stress on him and his friend. And they tried multiple different films. And what they came up with, like he said, it was very lame. And they were disappointed with what they did, but she thought it was funny. Then she got pneumonia, was admitted to the hospital. He and his mom went to see her. She was unconscious, and as he sat there, he realized all his efforts in trying to make her laugh through her battle with cancer, a lot of them had focused on him, not her. And he realized that he wished he could capture Rachel. Every thought that Rachel was going to have, that this person, this being was going to die, and he was going to lose this person he realized was his friend. It hit home with me because my son's friends went through that with him. And I do realize, like I said, the book is uncomfortable for many, but when you read it, having a child that's gone through that, it did hit home and it did make me cry. So I think there is some value to it.
Can I say something? A lot of times, my name is Greg Lamberty, I spoke earlier, but a lot of times they use this, why do you have to print pornographic material, a book about somebody dying? Why? Why you want to pervert people with this crap?
Yes.
'Cause that's what it is, you're gonna destroy people's minds. You know something, you're a soul in a body. The soul lives on. You've got to save the soul, and you destroy a person's soul. Pornographic material has a deleterious effect on the mind. There's been research done on this crap. Get it out of the library.
I want a rebuttal, please. I want a rebuttal. It's a real quick statement. It's a real quick statement. Last time you let Greg rebuttal someone's comment.
Had your opportunity, we could go on with rebuttals for rebuttals.
Okay, well, just remember, perverts give little kids suckers when they're trying to lure them into the van.
Right.
Is anyone else who hasn't spoken?
You know, I would like to say one thing I wasn't, but I think it's a little important for what we're talking about. First name Doug, last name Nowak, N-O-W-A-K. And the reason I bring it up is, you know, a lot of folks here are making outstanding points, and I think it might give you a little bandwidth in your decision making. You know, about 5-6 years ago, I was in a different line of work. I was a company commander in the Army, and I had a soldier that was doing bad things. And it's very rare, 99.9 great people, almost 100%. We had one person that was doing bad things to his children. He had 4 children. 2 of which were already showing signs of dissociative disorder. This is what the DM4 or DSM-5 would call, what we used to call multiple personality disorder. And what this individual was doing is he was using books as a tool, the ones we're talking about now, to break those barriers down and to do bad things to his children. It is our job as our society to police that. And if we can't start with our elected leadership, then we're doing something wrong.
That's right.
Because I'm gonna tell you, and sorry, I get a little emotional talking about this stuff, but I'm gonna tell you, when you see those kids' lives destroyed, they were young kids, that means, I think it was like 8 years and below, this person was doing bad things to his own children, and he was using this type of material that we're for whatever reason, we're arguing about now.
Yeah.
It's a blatant no, can't have it. Because I don't want my tax dollars being used by a bad person doing bad things using a book like that. It's a weapon, remember. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, go ahead. Your name, please?
Mary McFarlane.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Mary McFarlane. So, I grew up going to the library. It was my favorite place growing up. I used that library card more than I used a credit card for the first long part of my life. And I was starting to read books from the teen section when I was 7. So there is no age barrier when it comes to the teen section versus the kids section. It's a reading level thing. And there are younger kids than 12 reading those books, I can guarantee that. And I remember breezing over sections that, as a child, I knew were inappropriate in teen books. And even once in a while in kids' books. Like, as a kid, I knew that there was something wrong with that. I couldn't have explained it at that point in time, but there were things that I read that I don't think are appropriate for that age of child, or for any child, really. So, I just want to say that there are younger kids than even that age group reading those books, and you have to keep that in mind when you're putting them in the teen section. So if you wouldn't want an 8-year-old picking out that book, it shouldn't be in the teen section either.
Anyone else? Okay, well, yes, Lee.
So just time frame, we got 10 minutes in
Of course we do.
Well,
They have something else scheduled afterwards, or just?
no, but sorry, I misspoke. We have till 11:30. I changed it. Sorry, we have 40 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right, go ahead and, we'll go ahead and open the discussion on these books. Aaron, do you wanna, did you read the book in its entirety?
I did not read the book. I looked up the pertinent passages and read a lot of the online discussion, including the author's defense of the material. And he really was focused on the underlying story, which I'm glad we finally got to hear a little bit more about the full content of this, rather than focusing solely on the difficult material. I'm pretty torn, honestly. And, my daughter's also a way above level reader, and we're getting to the point where we're starting to discuss whether or not certain themes and certain kinds of things in books are appropriate, even if they're meant for her age group. But at the same time, we're talking about freedom here. It's a very difficult argument to have, because the number one killer of children in America right now is guns. Right? That just passed auto accidents.
Bullshit.
For the number one killer of children. So, but I won't take your gun.
Guys, we have to keep calm so they can close the meeting.
I won't take your gun, and I don't want you taking mine. And we have to accept a level of risk in order to have our freedoms. Now, where that level of risk lies, and what line we're willing to take, and what kind of risks are acceptable and what kind of risks aren't acceptable, I mean, that's why we're all here today.
Well, I'd
right?
say go to the Supreme Court and look at this.
And I have. I have a degree in journalism, and First Amendment law was one of the classes they made me take. And so we studied this pretty in depth. And I think one of the biggest problems is pornography and obscenity are not well defined. And
I just
today
read
I'm
the
happy to
definition in my
see,
statement.
I'm happy to see that we are defining with our community standards, right? We had a lot of people in here today telling us exactly what the community standards of this community are. And so I think we can take that a long way. We can take that community standard for obscenity, and we can clamp down a little tighter in our community. Because while it's certainly not all of our community would find this offensive, I would say a large part of our community would find this offensive. And so I'm willing to consider.
I guess we've got a couple options. One is to take it out of the library, and the other is to take it out of the young adult section and put it in the adult section.
And that's where I'm, that's what I'm leaning towards is starting another young adult shelf upstairs somewhere. You know, something that we can have materials that are heavier, you know, even things that are discussing race and religion, you know, things that we may not find obscene, but are still something that maybe a kid needs a little context in order to consume that materials. Because it, you know, that point isn't ignored, the fact that our lounge hangout area, even with people in the Fab Lab keeping an eye on, even with the downstairs librarians, it's still, the downstairs of our library is sort of for kids and the upstairs is sort of for adults, and there's that split there. So I don't like to be the one that takes people's freedoms, so I don't want to remove the book, but I think that we really need to seriously consider a rating system. We talked about this before, where we could enhance our rating system on books, where we can tag them and say, look, this one has profanity, nudity, sexual situations, you know, right on the back of the book. It can be identifiable like that. And we have systems for that, right? There's a few different.
Well, we have some ideas where we could create a system like that, heightened sweetness,
Yeah.
and a separate space for those kids.
So that's where that's what I'm leaning toward.
Okay. Lee, did you read the book?
I read the book, I read the whole thing. Honestly, I came in with a pretty clear idea of what I wanted to do. I did. That's my way. And then I was listening to Ryland Lewis talk, who is basically our target customer. You know, this is the person that we are addressing. And this is the person that we want reading books. And I am a product of the public school system. And I knew people, like every person described in this book. I knew people that talked in that poetic profanity that just blathers out, and it's something that some kids do. And I have talked to the high school counselor, who was high school counselor for a long time, and she had many examples of having to address students in the age group that this book describes and say, you know, that is not appropriate. That is not the way we talk. That is not, and so to me, the statements made in this book are realistic to the story. I think if you went to a high school over here and you got in the right group of kids, you could hear these exact words come out of somebody's mouth. And I think that makes the story realistic. But I also don't want to run the risk of, my daughter was an advanced reader. She read voraciously from as soon as she could pick up a book. And she self-monitored. So if she read a book that she didn't like, and she read a passage in it, she did not read the whole book. She set it down, she turned it away. And my son was much the same way. You know, he wasn't nearly as big a reader as my daughter, but when he ran into things in books that he didn't like, he put them down. You know, that was my goal for both of them, is to be able to read things and say, this is not for me, and put it down. But you can't raise everybody else's kids, you know? And what we're talking about here is freedoms that I take very seriously. And I think, I don't know, I'm agreeing with you. I think that we should be, so here's the question though, right? So we're gonna read Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and there are obviously parts of that book that are just, you know,
Shameful.
well, but they happen every day. But there's things we don't want to promote, right? We get it. We don't want to promote that. It's realistic, but we don't want to promote. then how are we gonna decide whose books go in this special shelf? And frankly, I was the kind of kid that'd be sneaking to get to the special shelf. So it's like,
Just get them out.
but then we're doing away with people's rights and choice. You know, you want people to take away your rights and choice?
What
When
about
they get old
upstairs?
enough, they can buy the book themselves.
Right.
I'll buy the book.
Get their parents to buy it.
Sir,
All right,
may I make a remark, sir?
no, we're done with the public speaking part. I don't know, I'm really torn.
Wendy,
Yeah.
you have.
I have not read the book, but I would agree with what Aaron proposed. By having a special shelf upstairs.
Would we have a space where you guys could monitor traffic?
Can I ask a question, Lynn? Sure. I'm not gonna ask who purchased this book, but I'm gonna ask why this book particularly would have been chosen. Like, why would we choose to purchase a book like this that might have?
I think it was an award winner.
It was an award winner, and it was critically acclaimed at the time it came out. You know, the
And
society
you know,
has changed.
That's part of it too, and then the other thing that can happen is that when you're looking at purchasing books, the synopsis they write up would obviously not include, oh, and by the way, there's 500 pages of
Right.
some pretty foul language. So, you know, you look at the award winner, you look at the subject matter, you look at what else you have in the library that has that subject matter. So all of those things are contributors to whether or not you purchase the book, yeah. But as far as finding a space and creating, what I would say is like, and then there are books out there now, they've created a whole separate category that's 18 and over, what do they call it, not young adult, but new adult, which is for 18 to say 23 or 25, that's another thing that basically publishers have created.
Right.
Which
to
probably
me,
includes more of that kind of stuff. So creating a space like that upstairs is completely doable. Even calling them, these are new adult books as opposed to young adult books, is entirely possible. What can't happen is, it'll be upstairs, so yes, but if a 15-year-old is looking at that shelf upstairs, the librarians cannot go and say, hey, you can't read this
Stop looking
section.
at that.
That's the one thing that, yeah.
Well, not
But
parent
it-
supervision, they're supposed to
Right.
be in the library with an
Right.
adult or guardian,
Right.
that's the rule.
But setting them aside so that it's obvious that these books are a little more mature than what's down in the or 14 to 18 section.
Well, and
That's
if she can't even
completely
download it on her phone without affirming that she's 18, because to me, that's,
And that part of
There
it.
was a movie
The
too.
digital
the
part of it is a
argument.
whole nother nest, really,
yeah.
yeah.
Can I make a statement, not as the public, but as, I'm gonna be writing an article for readoutnews.com.
Make it quick.
And there's a law enforcement in California, and we've been up here 26 years. And there's something you may not be thinking about is, Boundary County has a lot of, sexual deviants that are registered. And some of those are pedophiles. Pedophiles will hang out in libraries and, hey, come over here, little boy, I'm gonna show you something, especially if their parent isn't around. And that's how a lot of pedophiles grab children or take them, lead them out of the library, and they're gone.
That doesn't happen in our library.
That you know of.
We got the list.
Yeah, I mean, you can bring up the list. Are you gonna check everybody that comes in and see if they're on that list? The ones you know about.
Never done it. And then, I did read the book in its entirety, and, I'm just not a.
You gotta say it was funnier than the Ellen Hopkins books, though. You gotta say that, because I laughed at that one and I did not laugh at the Ellen Hopkins book.
But, I mean, I could see, personally, at least putting it in the adult section. Just due to the amount of bad type words and things.
Yeah, I mean,
The extreme graphicness
Yeah, yeah.
of the situation
well,
you
it's,
described.
you know, if we can't stand have her sit and read it to us,
Right.
we should be thinking about what we're doing. I mean, we really should. crazy, right? We can agree that's crazy. So, what if we try a shelf and we put, concerning books on the shelf in the adult, or closer to, in the adult section, closer to the, desks, you know, the main office desk there. Checkout desk. Can we set up something like that for next spring and see how that works?
We could definitely walk the floor and figure out a place where it would work best, yeah. I mean, we can definitely make space upstairs.
On the top shelf, did you end along the key?
Yeah.
Same thing?
So at some point, people have to be responsible for their kids, they really do. So, I guess I would submit the idea that we make a shelf in an appropriate space upstairs to put concerning books. And, this would be one of those books on that shelf.
Any discussion on that?
I think if we're going to do it, we need to set ourselves guidelines, what goes on the shelf and why. I think we need to do a complete audit of the young adult section and compare everything to that.
Booklooks.org.
And I realize that this is gonna take some time. So my first inkling is for you guys to pull this one from the shelf for now, make it set it in the back and make it a request. If somebody wants it, they can come ask you for it. And, ask somebody who isn't real busy with.
Sure, no problem.
Both of that, yeah,
Right.
both section.
Yeah.
And maybe make it part of your protocol to run things through book looks if we have time for that. That's, you've got a lot of other sources, but if you can
Add that one to it.
add that one to it so you can compare and contrast
No problem.
the ways of things when you start getting new books. I know we just keep piling things on you, but,
Well, the more tools you have for discerning what's gonna work in your library, the better you spend the money.
Right.
I mean, if I buy a book that I think 2 or 3 people are interested in, then I'm wasting shelf space, you know what I mean? And that's one.
and if it's gotta come down to this, then we're wasting a lot of people's time
Then
too,
everybody's
right?
unhappy, so, yeah,
Um,
no, it's definitely not something you wanna do on purpose, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
And none of us do, and this is a hard balance, we all know, this is, I mean,
Right.
we're a government organization, so we're bound by all the rules and all the procedures that government has to follow, which, is not built for speed or
Efficiency.
efficiency.
Yeah.
Sandra is a library consultant and person that took the library to a small.
I've gotta get closer to you.
Okay. And a person that made the library the best small book library in America.
No, it wasn't just me, it was all that.
So, what we're proposing, does that sound like something that would work from your perspective?
Well, that of course has been there a long time. The YA section used to be upstairs. And then the thought was to move it downstairs so the kids would have more of a private space. Where the Idaho nonfiction is where the YA section was, so it could be directly viewed by the staff at the desk. The book selection, all the books selected at the library were selected by review, by independent reviews, by educators and other professionals. And based on those recommendations, especially the children and what was considered YA. And YA, when I first started working at the library in 1985, was just coming on as a designated genre area. And YA label to the staff at the library at the time and myself today, it's young adult. So from my viewpoint, it was
In Idaho, yes, you're an adult, you're a minor, but the age of consent is 16. So it was 16 to 18 and into their college age, young people. And it was upstairs. It was moved downstairs, and there's a mixture in there of age appropriate, and the books themselves will tell you, with the publishing information on the inside. And all the books at the library are, except for the adult fiction, have some sort of a designated label. As a matter of fact, we were looked down upon by libraries in general, like the ALA, because we did do labels, westerns, romance, science fiction, that kind of thing. And in the children's area, we started with JP, was our picture books. J is juvenile, that's 4th grade reading level down. 1st grade, easy readers, you know, the labels that people could easily understand. YP was young people, and that was 5th grade reading level up to into high school. And the subject matter was fit those age groups. YA, again, senior, junior, seniors in high school, usually senior, freshman, sophomore, even some interest depending on reading level, their reading ability for older, mid-20s. And again, the section was upstairs. So you did see 4 and 5 years wandering around. The way the library is laid out now downstairs, we moved the children's area downstairs in 1986. And it is separate from the rest of the library, particularly to give families the ability to relax, children to play, have plenty of time to do whatever they wanted to do without disturbing the adults upstairs. But again, this is an easy fix. You can come up with, like, again, doing the audit, analyzing the age appropriate language. Then I read public school, out on the street, the words I hear in the grocery store, or things that I would have got my mouth washed out with soap. And get in my room, time out for months. But men and women both seem to have no compulsion of using all sorts of things. But anyway, developing a level for that in between, that's from the young people, white people, it's in the children, to more age appropriate, and then moving. It's really quite simple. And again, the way they put books are is by review. They may not specify exactly all the bad language and stuff, but they will tell you whether it has, and we didn't buy them, violence or, but there are a number of books that were written from the viewpoint of people that had lived through those experiences and tough subjects. But teenagers think they're gonna live forever. And Earl and the Dying Girl, I didn't read the whole book, but I read that last passage that my daughter talked about. And the one thing teenagers don't get to deal with or don't even understand is death. And sometimes a person needs that kind of something to even think about. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, you have a recommendation for us on how to do that, Lynn?
I actually think it's a really good idea to create a new adult section and put books that tip over into that. All the things that we've been talking about in that section. And I would be happy to go through and audit the YA section. I think that's a very good idea too. And create something separate upstairs. The one thing about where the YA section is right now is that we have noticed that since we moved it downstairs, many more teenagers use that section. They hang out, they read, they hang out with their friends, and when it was upstairs, the space was very, very limited, and there was no more comfortable there. So it's gratifying to see it being used by teenagers, don't see little kids over there, and if there are little kids in the, living room area, they are accompanied by parents, their parents are with them. So I think, just in terms of making everybody happy, to separate these sorts of books from your regular teenage books, for lack of a better way, is actually a really good and smart thing to do.
Okay. Do you have a?
I'm working on
Bob?
it.
Bob?
Yes, Tanya.
One other point. For people to understand about authors that are writing today, they are writing from the current cultural background. I can tell authors in children's books who grew up with television. There's an entirely different way of writing than authors that were pre-television. And so you look at what's offered in popular entertainment. If you're concerned about a book, you should be concerned also about the advertisement advertising your children observe. The television programs,
The whole culture.
all that kind of thing, the social media. So like I said, it's, the people that are writing today have grown up with that. So the tenor of the writing is going to be changing too. And you see it in the adults too. A lot of the adult books have profanity now that they never did before. But again, that's the way people are talking.
Which is why I think it's a good response to how the culture has changed, to actually create a section that's,
Right.
you know, between an adult and an 18-year-old or a minor, basically. It's a very smart response.
This book shouldn't be in there. It's wrong.
It's because they don't pray before their meeting and pledge to the Constitution, the American flag.
All right, so we want to, let me just check these off before I make the motion. We want to create a new adult section, have the librarians create a rating rubric for them with possibly labels or not.
How about if we explore the possibility of doing that? I have no idea what that would look like or what would be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so then you can come back and tell us what that looks like. and
Yeah,
we can
well,
help you.
yeah.
Okay. I like that word, explore, creating a new adult section, a rating rubric, and auditing the YA with the rubric. In the short term, I'd like to pull a book from the shelf and put it in the back and make it a request only. Okay, so should I make a motion for all those?
Even for adults?
What's that?
Even for adults?
Until we find out where it wants to live, it doesn't have a home. You know, we're not moving into the adult section. You know, it's gonna find somewhere, it's gonna find.
And that's true. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but there are books that, we don't have on the floor, but they're in the computer, so if you want them, it actually says, ask for them. That's not something we've never done before. There are a handful of books that are already like that.
Does that require a parent to be involved or not?
See, we can't do that. If your minor is on your card, then, and they ask for that book, you can't be the police and say, no, you can't have this. Does that make sense?
But they would have to go through all that process in order.
Yeah, they have to come to the front desk and ask.
And know that it's there.
Yeah.
The problem is that when I signed up my card 3 years ago, and that was only 3 years ago. Imagine the people who've been a card holder for 10, 15 years, they don't know. So I don't know if there's a memo you could put out or something,
Did you know
maybe a little
when you
sign at
sign
the
up,
register.
When you sign for your card, we explain that.
Yes, but things have changed since then. Is there any way you could just put a little sign at the register that, and then they can read it, then you're not responsible for reminding everyone? Just a little warning that, you know, don't forget on your card if you have your child's name, because some people might want to take their kids' names off now knowing what's in our library. I'm just
And all they
requesting.
have to do is come and say.
I know, I'm just requesting the disclaimer sign at the register. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
We're gonna create a new adult section, a rating rubric, audit the YA and full book. Anything else?
Any further discussion on that?
No, that seems reasonable.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to explore creating a new adult section with a rating rubric, audit the young adult section according to the rubric, and hold the book, Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, behind the desk until we have a section appropriate for that.
I thought you wanted it upstairs. It needs to be upstairs, the new,
Yeah, I'm not gonna specify that in the motion, but yeah, that's, I guess I could.
Yeah.
Create a new adult section upstairs. Et cetera. That's my motion. I'm sticking to it.
All right, I'd second that.
What about the audit?
Okay,
That was part of it, yeah. The motion, let me say it again. We have a motion to explore creating a new adult section upstairs, creating a rating rubric, auditing the YA section according to that rubric, and pull the book, Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, until such time as it has a proper location.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we had a motion made and seconded. All in favor of following through on the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we'll implement
Have
that
that
then.
happen.
Okay, that was our last agenda item, so thank you, everyone. and-
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I will make